Hi everyone, this is Marisha Parekh and I'm the CEO at the Wedding School. And here, happy to be live one more time with all our lovely followers and those who just love the word weddings and everything to do with weddings. Today I'm here for a big announcement, and as you would know, it has always been I think my belief that one has to keep changing with changing times and always coming up with something new and interesting to engage people, and always come up with something new and interesting that's going to help you go to your next level. And today, as TWS, we're very happy to speak about the fact that we have created a special module for our beloved wedding enthusiasts, those who are already in the industry and are just looking at wanting to upgrade their skill set and want to do their work but do it in a better way, and at the same time learn some new things. And that's the opportunity that we are trying to create. And so that you can build on your existing career, you can take your startup to the next level, and that's with a special course and a special version of the TWS course, which is about Upskill. So it's an upskill course which is purely directed towards somebody who has in a rush started their own enterprise, and now you realize that there is more to it. Now you realize that there are things that you could have and can do better than what you are doing. Also, for a lot of our amazing enthusiasts who are already a part of the wedding industry in the form of an employee or being somebody who works on project basis. How do you go to your next level? How do you really take this forward and make yourself more significant in your organization? How do you, in spite of not being from a metro or a mega city, have the same experience and exposure and knowledge that your contemporaries have? There is nothing available that understands Indian weddings and the sensibilities, the Indian sensibilities and expectation of the Indian boss, which is very different from the way our peers internationally function. How do you get to your better version? And thus we've created this course, which is again, it's starting on the 22nd of July, but it is about upskill and upgrade yourself. And I'm really excited for this one. Wanted to, in fact, do it sometime last year, but was not able to. And I think that this is a great time because we were getting a lot of queries, and we thought that it's a great time to get started. And I always believe in baby steps. I've never believed that I want to reach the peak of the mountain, and I like to take it slow, and I like to keep it steady. And that's really the way I think life best functions, at least in the professional space. Personal is different. Everyone has their own ways of living their life. But for me, this becomes a very, very interesting, exciting feature. Yet another chapter that's getting added to the TWS story, and yet another offering which we feel is really going to help organizations who want to invest in their senior team members and want to make sure that there's so many times that you feel a vacuum, and you feel like, I wish there was somebody who could do this right, and I wish I didn't have to do it all. So how do entrepreneurs who are running small companies, where do they go to train their team members and make the team members capable enough to be able to, say, service a client or work on a design or negotiate, or how can they improve their game in terms of systems, operations, etc. So this is that opportunity which can be taken up either by a startup, a lean team organization, owner, or it could be taken up by senior employees, where it's either the employee who is picking up the course or your boss is interested and investing in you. And I think that would be really a turning point for us, because it's not just important to train those who want to enter this industry. It's equally important that those who are already a part of the Indian wedding industry, they are also doing their job right, and they are doing their job better. For those of you who've joined me on this live, a big hello to you. And I really wish that everyone's doing superbly well, and I could see a lot of known people, but I am refraining from taking names. But thank you so much for joining. And before I tell you more about the course, I'd love to hear from y'all as well, especially those who've joined in and are already working in a company or have been a part of this industry in one way or the other. Tell me, if you were given a choice, and if you had got an opportunity to learn something in order to be able to do it better, what department would you want to learn something more about, or what kind of job work would you like to know more about? I'd love to hear your comments, and I'll be happy to answer questions that one may have in terms of how do you go about it really. For me, I think use of technology in the space of weddings, because weddings is a very emotionally driven space. So what happens is, I feel that it's very, very difficult to get that right balance, where a client is able to understand that here is story narration happening in the latest form, but it also has its set of emotions and relatability. I love that space, and for me it would be great if there was somebody who would be able to define that space further, which I know doesn't exist. I have tried doing my own research on it. Hopefully next year I will have something like that as well to share with you, but that becomes an interesting space for me. I would love to hear from you guys. What is it that you would like to learn more about? Considering that you would have spent anywhere between 1 to 5 years in the space of events and weddings. What do you think you want to learn to do better? And what all have you explored in order to be able to learn that, to be able to do it better? I did go through a whole set of possible courses that are available in order to see how does somebody who is already a success story get to their next big game. And I love the mass game and being able to speak to thousands of people without knowing whom I'm speaking to, but my heart still belongs to a space where I'm able to connect with you and be able to share a story and teach you through experiences. For me, that becomes a space where I think we will be able to not just conquer numbers, but conquer hearts and make a difference in the true sense. Vidhi is here. Hi, Vidhi. Hope you're doing well. And I was supposed to call you back. I just realized I will do that. I was on a lovely holiday actually, so I have missed out on getting back with a lot of people. So now that I'm back in Amchi, Mumbai, Vidhi, I'm going to call you soon. Vidhi is writing one of the best wedding planning institutes. Thank you so much for that. And I think it's the people who make it what it is. And yeah, here's to many more years. It's our 5th year, so I'm particularly excited about what the journey is going to be like ahead. I've got Vanshika over here after so long. Ma'am, it's always lovely learning from you. From this mini live sessions of Instagram, so sweet. Vanshika, I think this is really, really sweet of you, and thank you for that. And I try my little bit to make a bit of difference to people who matter and to people who are looking up to someone and looking forward to something new. So these Insta lives are really, really very close to my heart as well. Guys, I'd love to hear from you as well. What is it that you would love to learn more about in the space of weddings? If given a choice, what is the skill set that you would like to improve? I think a lot of times I have felt this with a lot of senior management in various organizations, and I come from having the liberty and the access, and thanks to a lot of our verticals, which is the wedding school, the wed jobs, which allows me to interact with a lot of entrepreneurs and business runners from all across India. I think the one common feature which I see most owners wanting and aspire to be able to train their team is the senior management to be able to get into more system driven work, to be able to take forward a whole set of work with a far greater sense of responsibility, which is going to then be equivalent to the owner of the company being present. So that omnipresence, I think, is one part which is absolutely important, and I think a huge vacuum, which I feel a lot of the senior members could actually take formal training and be able to learn, because that's very, very, very critical for you as an individual. If I'm looking at it from an employee perspective, a lot of times people say, what's the next thing? The next thing is, because there's no scope for growth, I want to start my own. I know so many young entrepreneurs who are compelled to start on their own just because they don't know what to do with the experience that they have. And for some people like that, it becomes very important for you to know that your next is when you will be able to imbibe more leadership quality, be able to delegate work, be able to train your next set of juniors so that you can climb up that ladder. And even if you don't have aspirations or don't want to take that entire stress of running an organization and people management, finance management, business pressures, you can still be doing very well if you're making a difference to the company where you're working. Now, after 2-3 years of working in a company, when you think you've reached a decent level, I don't believe anyone can ever. There's always scope to learn something new. And in today's times, I think what you knew yesterday is, outdated by tomorrow. So that's a big drawback of the times that we are living in. But the big difference you can make is when you can make a difference in the organization, when you not being in the organization matters to the company. When you reach that level, that's when, you can really take pride in the fact that you've done something. How do you reach that level? It's systems, better management skills, which is something that most of us have not formally educated ourselves in. I mean, let's not forget, most of us have not gone to management schools. So the only way that you can learn all of this is by taking up a course that's going to help you. And that's really the aim of the new course by TWS, where our whole idea is to make you better in the space of management and ops, and equally good with new softwares, with better presentations, where your content today is very critical because your bride and groom are far more learned and far more exposed to different cultures and different trending things around, and they're far more aware. So you've got to be better than them, and this is really the course that would help you. I've got Deepika here, who's written production, technology, and costing departments. Would always want to learn more on that. I know what you're saying. I think especially, actually everything you said, because I feel most of us in this industry, unfortunately, the young talent that may have entered this industry anywhere between the last, I would say, 3 to 7 years, most of them are those who've learned production on field. They have never had a class where they would learn from the basics, and that definitely has an impact. Like I've always said, just learning A to Z is never enough, and it's not good. How to make words out of those alphabets, that's something we learned in school, right? And that is what really makes a difference. Just going on a venue and observing and learning is a method, but it is a method that would have worked 10-15 years back, because nobody knew how to teach and nobody knew any better. But today is a time when you don't do that mistake. Today is a time when you have to learn the words and on field go to frame the sentences, if I have to put my thought poetically. Oof. That's why for me, production learning is really important. In fact, that's a part of our Upskill course, where even if you think, hey, I've spent 3 to 4 years in this industry, I'm already working, you will still not know so many terminologies. There are still so many times when our technical vendors talk a language to us that's alien to us. That's simply because we know something visually, but we don't know what it's called. We don't know the use, the optimum use, and we don't really know the back end of what our vendors go through. So that is an important part of the learning which will happen through this Upskill course at TWS, which is meant for startups and senior employees in companies. Your next point, Deepika, with regards to costing, it's a trick, it's an art, especially with all the data available, at the tip of your fingers, and the data which is available to you is also available to your competitors, is also available to your client, and to anyone who has anything to do with that particular wedding. So how are you going to really end up making enough of revenue? And I would hate to think anything wrong in it, because you are here to justify a salary, or as an entrepreneur, you are here to make money for yourself and your team. So there's nothing wrong in making revenue, as long as you understand where are the opportunities to make that kind of revenue, and how do you stay transparent with your client and yet make sure you're making revenue for your company. And that's possible. How is what we teach you in the Upskill course, because these are things that will take you to the next level. And I know costing is something that everyone's always tried about, but here you are. It works well when you learn it from the best. And just like all our TWS courses, here also we are going to have our faculty that belongs to the industry from different cities, so that your learning is all varied. I'm waving back to people. And for those of you who've just joined in, I am talking about our Upskill course, which is strictly meant for employees and is meant for startup companies that have spent just a year or two as entrepreneurs and have not taken any formal training and are looking at something that's going to help them get to their next level. If you have something that you would love to learn, share your thoughts and views with me here, and I'll be happy to comment and guide you in terms of what is it that you can do and how is it that you can go to your next level. I'm waving back to everyone as I keep talking and sharing my thoughts. I think for me, another important role, I think, is a space of learning, is if you are constantly dedicating anywhere between 60 to 90 minutes to new findings. Khyati is here. Hi Khyati, hope you're doing well. Hari is here. What's up, Hari? People management skills. I know it is so important, and there are different kinds of people, especially when it comes to bosses, and bosses also need to learn different ways in which they have to deal with people. I learn it at the start of a day, and by the end of the day I've gone back to being MP, and then again I decide next morning, okay, I'm going to give it a different approach. It's habitual, and there are lots of things that one needs to learn and unlearn as far as people management is concerned. I think for somebody to lead a team, and like I was mentioning, there's so many of us who may not want to run our own companies and take the pressure, but we love to be the boss and we are good at leading. How do you do that in a better way so as to be the favorite and yet make people accountable? That is such an important aspect, and I'm so glad, Hari, you brought it up. I think for me, my learning of people management comes from great, varied, different kinds of people that I have dealt with, different bosses that I've dealt with, right from the day when I started anchoring. to a time when I'm closely interacting with most of the wedding companies from across India, thanks to Wed Jobs. And of course, TWS, where we end up sending a lot of our talent to different companies. And for me, it's been a policy that I may not have ever discussed. I'll not even say may not. I have never discussed the way an organization runs with anyone just because I have good access to it. But for me, that also has become a great indirect way of learning because the students teach us. It's always great to improve your people management skills by learning from your juniors, by taking their feedback, their hate, their love, and decoding it to understand how to be a better colleague and a better boss every single day, especially in these stressful times. Hari's writing, patience, diplomacy, urgency, system, and processes. Be humble. All these matter, and be polite at stressful times. बताओ मुझे हरी ये कैसे करें हम? How do you become humble in stressful times? I think that is something that we all would instantly have a reaction to, besides all the valid points that you made. Hari, I'm going to ask you to please join us as a faculty for taking this session. We have, in fact, in our previous years, always had somebody from, the background of being a trainer and a team trainer, somebody who has a background of having studied psychology, who has taken this session for us, which has helped us make the youngsters realize. And Hari, I don't know if you'll agree with me, but I feel especially today, anyone in that age bracket of 21 to 25, their ability to handle stress and their ability to take criticism and feedback is far restricted compared to how you and me have been. What was excitement for us is stress for a lot of youngsters in that age bracket of 21 to 25, where they're not able to compartmentalize and understand that anxiety is not leading to the end of their life or health. It is something that we would call the adrenaline rush, the excitement of doing something which is so uncertain. I saw a wonderful video yesterday. A friend of mine who had worked on the IPL closing, Jay Mathuria, sent it to me. That video captures the team that worked on the closing ceremony. And I could relate to that sigh of relief that the person heading that particular project had, because that's what we really work for. Who would have imagined it would rain? Can you imagine? Do not count and calculate the extra money people had to spend to stay back in a city, but just go through the emotion that the team that worked on the project went through when you are on standby, when you are about to all do your job right. At that very moment you realize it's not happening, and until 4 hours you don't know when it's going to happen. The players who had to play, that's excitement, that's anxiety, that's uncertainty. How to not let it fall in a pit called stress, how to learn to take it in your stride and understand that's the demand of this industry. We are in this line because we love the unknown. And that is something that I feel even senior management today can learn. Even the young entrepreneurs need to learn, because if you don't know how to deal with it, you would never be in a position to be able to hold your team in those uncertain times. When a bride is late for her Jaimal, tell me what all we go through mentally while she and her makeup artist and her photographer are busy taking pictures, not realizing that there are people whose heartbeat has doubled up, and there are those who are sinking in because they don't know what's going to happen next. So these are very important things that one needs to learn to deal with, and that can happen when you have an exchange of views, when you listen to somebody else, when you get a chance to share this with somebody else. And that's really the agenda of the TWS Upskill course, that we want to be able to help those who are already in this industry to do their part better, as it's not easy, but it's important. Hari is writing, you look fresh after the holiday. Really? I don't know. For me, this holiday was as much about a guilt which only I had. Hemant never gave me the guilt, but I was only worried that I'm working when I'm not supposed to work. I'm working when I'm not supposed to work. I think that guilt killed me half the time. And by the end of the holiday, I realized to be unapologetic. And the second thing I realized is it's a great idea which I've tried selling to my husband, who's very good at selling ideas. I sold him the idea, next month let's go for a 1 month holiday instead of 2 weeks, and let's work for half day on every single day of that holiday, so that you feel like you are working from, an exotic location. And I think that was my so-called smart way of convincing him that working when you are on a holiday is not such a bad idea. Oh God, tell me about it. How to take a break? I would love for that kind of a topic. How do you balance out? When you're stressed, it's important to take a break, and very important not to quit. I think this is something similar to this. In fact, I read on my way right now while I was in Bandra, and the churches in Bandra still have the quote unquote that goes up every week, and I just love that culture. I have grown up in that space, and I really wish that there were more of those quotes that one would pass by, and I don't get those forward somehow. I'm not that active on WhatsApp on those groups to get a good morning and a quote. Hari's writing, humility is the key. Yes, it is. Hi to Usman. And yes, I will keep smiling, Hari. Always, always, always. And your experiences will definitely add to whatever, we are discussing over here. I think for me, for those of you who don't know Hari, he is somebody who has led several teams. He has been part of the most prestigious events before he started his own venture, and then he also diversified into so many unique spaces, from being a part of a company where he had to deal with office politics. That's something really important that one needs to learn, which we would be covering in the Upskill, because that's again a part of people management, again a part of how to keep your sanity when you think things are going rough. For me, from that kind of a space, Hari started his own company, Archers, which is into weddings. I remember even anchoring a wedding for him in Kochi and seeing how relaxed Hari, that time life was so much more easier. Don't you feel so? Because the client was interested in his performance on the day of Sangeet and was not interested in knowing ye kya kar raha hai, wo kya kar raha hai, iska kya, uska kya. He was physically and mentally with his family, and I really miss those days. When I used to anchor a lot of weddings, and when they didn't have wedding planners like Hari, I used to get into making event flows for free and giving them suggestions on artists for free. I should have got paid lots more, but yeah, I think those were fun times when people enjoyed what they did. It all comes from the top. So if your top is wobbly, then the employees below will never deliver. True. I also feel a very important part of making sure your team is doing well is if you are in touch with them in the true sense as a boss, as the owner of a company, because no matter how much you may rely on your senior management, weddings being such a sensitive, emotionally driven space, I think every employee looks forward to that little time that they would get on a one-on-one. And it's not necessarily about venting out. It could just be about, say, brainstorm with your team. And, I went recently on this holiday. We visited the Warner Brothers studio which was about Harry Potter. And in that, there was a video about how they came up with this idea that they need to make a movie from a story that's written. And I'm forgetting the name of the producer because there were lots of them. He mentioned the fact that every Monday he would meet his team and they would discuss about what are the interesting things that the team has read up in the last week. And that is such a lovely way to not just learn new things yourself, but also push your team to spend time to learn something new. Like I said, 60 to 90 minutes while you're traveling, instead of just watching random people dancing in their Insta and talking about how amazing their life is. Try to read up something new, and that just will give you a good break from your regular work and thought process. It helps you learn something exciting. It makes you a more interesting person, and such a lovely way to stay in touch with your team. So it's got multiple advantages, and one must definitely try to get there. Learn to switch off from work. I cannot do that, but if somebody can, they should. Okay, I'm going to now sign off for now, because I really have a time for a Zoom call that I have to stick to, and I am going to have my chai before that. So for those of you who came in late, I will be here again next Thursday, and we will be discussing about topics that you would love to learn more about in your professional journey and capacity. And for those of you who are intrigued as to what are we teaching at TWS, all you have to do is just DM us a hi, and the team will revert back to you, and you can get on to a journey that has to be continuous and constant, which is learning. This is Marisha signing off for now, and looking forward to catching up with you. Some of you in person, some of you online, some of you right here on this Insta Live next Thursday. Adios, goodbye, and have a great week ahead.